So what we're going to do today is we're going to dive in. And today's class is your AppFiles basics. And if you haven't already been into AppFiles, the quickest way to get through into AppFiles is through My H&R Office. And if you haven't been introduced to My H&R Office, you're going to have your login credentials that corporate sends to you. You're going to go to myhroffice.com. You're going to hit the hamburger on the far left side, and you will see all of the different websites that Harry Norman works with. We have our CRM here. We have AppFiles, AdWorks, even your awesome cloud. There will be a brand new video added for My H&R Cloud coming up explaining how an agent should utilize it. I'm working with Rita on that right now. But most of all, you can get to AppFiles. So make sure everybody's muted. All right. So to get to AppFiles, you're going to click on this button and it will bring you into this main window of AppFiles. Perfect. So in this window, you'll notice AppFiles is really not that scary. It repeats itself everywhere. The home button here brings you to your home window here. My AppFiles are all of your current AppFiles that you are working with and that you can search. Okay. Next, you have your signature request. These are all your outbound signatures that you have going on. You can resend them if your client says they haven't received it. You can also use the link that's tied to this and send to your client so they can sign. Okay, so no signature request is dead. This is a catalog of them, so you can resend them. If you feel like a signature request needs to be deleted, you also have the opportunity to cancel a signature request. I'm just moving the Zoom window around. Next is your inbox. You will not be using this. Real talk. Yeah. This is something you will not use. What we're going to do in the settings is we're going to set it up so your emails will be coming to your Harry Norman email. So they won't see this very weird, bizarre, URL or this email address. It will literally be your Harry Norman email, which of course makes people feel more comfortable with emails that come to them through the system. All right. Also, sorry, I'm still moving windows around. You have your activity bar. Your activity bar is everything that you're currently doing in AppFiles, from attaching a PDF to an email to send out, changing the status of your folder from what they are to new pending when you're submitting to your staff members. It's all of the different things that you're doing with your folders, and it's just like a status report. Signature requests going outbound. Last is tasks, and tasks are extremely important. Some offices use this more than others. This is your staff members telling you it's something's missing or things that they need for the transaction to be completed. That's what a task is. Also, if you ever get stuck and there is something wrong with your, majorly wrong with your AppFiles, AppFiles support is one of the best supports I have personally ever worked with. Far better than FMLS. Far better than anybody I've ever worked with. AppFiles support is amazing. Click on this, reach out to them. Every time I've ever worked with them, they've gotten back to me within an hour, which is very impressive. And as I said before, everything that's along this navigation is repeated in the body of this website. Your recent AppFiles on the right side, your recent activity is in the center, and your task is at the top. So if you do have a task from your staff member, it's the first thing you see at the top. So you'll be able to complete them and check them off that you have done them. Okay. The bare minimum items that you should know about, you can also print out a blank form on your left side here. If you ever need to and you're in a hurry, I hear people say it all the time, I need to print out a buyer brokerage. My client is older, needs the printed hand copy. You can do this. It is available. All right. So that's the home window. Nothing scary about it. You'll get more and more comfortable every time you go to it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into your settings. Okay. On the far left side, you will see there is a settings link. Now, truthfully, what I'm about to do is a one-time thing. You can obviously update your headshot another day if you wanted to, but I'm going to go down the line here. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to check to make sure your display name is for a fact your name. Next, your user photo. You may need to make sure that when your headshot, if your new agent comes in from Miss Weeks, our photographer, that you have it put in here so that it correlates with your app file folder. And it's a very easy thing to do. In this window, you're going to hit the browse button. And let me make sure this pop-up shows up. I love Zoom sometimes. Is there a way to see what? Bonnie, if you're on your phone, it helps to be on your computer, especially if you're on the phone, because you're probably using the phone to watch this. Sorry. Let me make sure y'all can see. Can you see my pop-up? No, y'all can't see the pop-up. I love Zoom. Here's the pop-up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select my headshot that I want to add, and I'm going to say okay. Okay, it registers that a headshot's there. So I'm going to hit the start upload to put my headshot onto my app files. You can update this anytime. If you haven't had a new headshot taken in a while, I heavily recommend you do this, because if I'm meeting with you and I don't recognize you, that's scary. Please get a headshot. All right, so that's my headshot in place. Next, you're going to check to make sure your cell phone is correct. This cell phone comes in from the H&R website, so it should be correct based on what your staff members have put in. Let me change my share again. Perfect. Next, email address settings. This is actually one of the more important things that you need to make sure is correct. At the very top, your email address, your primary email address. Make sure it's your Harry Norman email address. If not, if you're part of the Hester team, make sure it's your Hester email. That's important. If you're a new agent, I heavily recommend checking this box that says copy my primary email address on all emails sent through AppFiles. That way you know when communications fully hit an email address.
You don't want it? Okay.
The reason why, someone's.
Hold on just a second. Okay.
Let me mute somebody real quick. Sorry about that. All right. It helps to have it come to you as well, so that when your client says they did not see it, you can say it hit my email address at 2 o'clock. Please check your email for 2 o'clock. It's more of that correlation of when something reaches their email address. Also, this checkbox right here, it says spoof your email address by sending. This is what I meant. This is going to replace the AppFiles obscure email address with your Harry Norman email address. That's why it's so important. So make sure this is selected. I have a lot of people say that the cons are that it will go to their spam folder. I have only heard that happen once or twice in almost 4 years. So it's very, very rare. I heavily recommend spoofing your email address. Okay, not too bad. All right. Oh, I still have Tori's signature in here. That's funny. So for your email address and your signature, I'm going to do this real quick. Let me open an email address, email.harrynorman, and I'll explain how this is extremely important to knock out. All right. To get your signature into your app files, follow me. This email address right here, you're going to need to copy. Copy the email address right here, okay? You're going to go to your email, Outlook, and you're going to compose a blank email with just your signature in the body, and you're going to send it to that email address that was in your app file. Oops, come here. This right here, you're going to send your signature through your email to that email address. And the subject line can be just SIG. It's perfectly fine. What you're doing is you're emailing your signature into the app files, and it will save it in place. Now, don't worry about the disclaimers and all those protection information at the bottom. It will fill in for you, so you do not have to write that. Then you'll just hit send. You'll go back to your app files and see how it says Tori right now. I'm going to close this window and I'm going to refresh my browser. I'm going to go back to settings, to my footer. Oops. Should have updated. Hold up one second. Huh. Did I do it wrong? I must have done it wrong. What does it say? Your browser supports Outlook defaults email handler. Huh. Says, if you need to make a revision, phone number, logo, etc. to your signature block, do you follow the same process? Yes, you do. When it comes to AppFiles, yes, you do. You go through the same process. Let me refresh my window. Huh, I wonder why mine's not updating. I've never had that happen before.
Mine's not either.
Huh, I wonder if there's something wrong with it right now. I have taught this class a million times and it is never not updated. Huh. I'm sorry, guys. That's new to me. I'll just be Tori Hughes forever. That's what it's looking like right now. Huh. Well, then what I would recommend is give it some time, go back and do the same process. And I'll reach out to AppFiles after the class and see if there's something that's keeping the signature from going into place. Because like I said, I've never had it not load in. So I will check on this. Lastly, you're going to go to your default mobile view. And most of you, the default mobile view is already set for full desktop view. So just make sure it is. The odds that you're going to use a mobile device to do AppFiles is rare, just because it's so much easier to work on an actual contract on a computer. So just set it for full desktop view if you don't already have it set that way. Well, besides the email footer not working, before I move any further, does anybody have any questions about our settings? Got a quick chat. Maybe there's, you know, Courtney, you're probably right. There might be a delay and probably the signature is just going to load in just a few minutes. When you're running on a server, that's probably what happens. So just give it some time and check back and see if the signature loads. Do I have any questions on home navigation settings? Like I said, I want to slow this down and make sure everybody feels comfortable. I'm going to leave y'all with homework. I will admit it. All right. So my homework for y'all is to dive into, I've got a quick chat. I've never done settings, so I get to do it. Absolutely. Make sure your settings are done, especially if you have a headshot already from Katie Weeks. Put everything into place, have it the way you need to. Another thing that you can do to benefit you long-term is your form values on the left side over here. Left side, form values. So to explain what form values are, these are the documents that are physically saved in AppFiles. Now, I will say every year in January, these documents are updated, of course. Yearly purchase and sale, buyer brokerage agreement, they're updated. But for the whole entire year, these documents are saved in here for you to use. So in form values, you have the ability to pre-fill in some information that will help you long-term. An example of this, if you hit this drop down right here, there's in-house forms, there's brokerage engagement forms, there's all kind of documentation in here that these are documents you're going to use when you're having a transaction that you can open up now and pre-fill in some information for you as a shortcut. An example of this, I've opened up the buyer brokerage agreement. Let's go page 6 to 10. I can scroll down and I can pre-fill in some information about myself as a licensee. This is always going to be correct. It's always going to be my information. So I'm going to pre-fill this in. And the reason why is when I'm filling in other documents like a purchase and sale or a buyer brokerage, these items can be imported to other documents. So I can bring them over later on. So it's very important to fill in where you can. Now, I'll be real. One easy night with a glass of wine, knock these out. Bring up the documents your purchase, sale, your buyer brokerage agreement. Go ahead and pre-fill in some areas will always need to be there because it will help you long-term. It's a one-time thing, once a year, get it done. Do I have any questions about form values? It's an extremely easy win for you.
Hey, Drew, I have a question about the form values. Are you able to separate it for buyer versus seller? If you're representing either or, are you able to save like a separate document where you filled out one side?
No, This is more of universal docs. So they're not specific to what side of the transaction.
Okay, thank you.
No, of course, great question. Got a quick chat. Do you have to fill each document or is there an autofill for all documents? No, you have to fill in each document for this scenario, but you're going to be using them year round. So if you fill them in once, and then really, if you think about it, there's not too many documents that you really need to fill in because you know what you need for your transaction. So you just have to fill it in once. I wish there was an autofill, but it can't assume to know what you need to fill in. So spend the time, fill it in, use it all year long. All right, after you fill it in, you do not have to hit save. You will just close the document and the information will be in place. Okay, so these are pre-filled docs that you're going to pull into your AppFile folders when you're working with the client. All right, I'm gonna look around a little bit, make sure everybody feels pretty good. Okay, hey everybody. Cool. I didn't know Sherry slipped in. Hey Sherry. Awesome. Okay, so that is your home window, your settings, your form values. Those are easy wins, one time, knock it out for the year. The next thing we're going to cover is actually opening a AppFile folder. Okay, so to start a brand new app file, you're going to go over to the left side where it says create new app file. And to remind people, an AppFile folder is not a transaction. It's your contact. It becomes an offer later. So what you're doing is even if you meet your contact and they are not planning to make a transaction till 6 months out, you should make an AppFile folder for them now so that you can pre-fill in information about your contact. It will only benefit you. So let's get started. I'm going to start off with, I always use musician names. I'll just go ahead and tell you. So I'm going to start off with Mac Powell. and I see you, Stuart. I'm a big Third Day fan, so let's go with it. All right, so from here, I am going to choose that Mac will be a buyer. And of course, he has bought plenty homes in Atlanta. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm naming my folder, my contact, and I'm declaring what type of file he is. He is going to be a buyer. Okay, when you do this, you also have the opportunity to fill in your file info fields. Okay, so this is why when you meet your contact, you can go ahead and start putting some things in that you know about your contact. So of course, selling agent will be you because you're representing him. And also any other information that you want to put in about your buyer. Of course, it is Mac Powell. If you want to put in his email address, say mpowell@gmail.com. Any pre-information will help you long-term because you're going to pull these info fields into other docs. As you make your way down, he's going to be buying residential single family, agent, which again is myself. Whatever information I have, I'm pre-filling in this particular file info field. You can go back and add this information later on. So don't feel like you have to have it all at once. Next, after you filled in your info fields, you're going to determine if anybody else is going to have access to this AppFile folder. Now, if you're a part of a husband and wife or a partner team or a large group, whether you want to have your mentor having access to your AppFile folder, you will have the opportunity to add that person to this AppFile folder over here. So for instance, if my mentor is my good friend, Allison Becker, I click the plus next to her name and you will see that Becker has the ability to have access to my AppFile folder. This is a great way to kind of checkpoint what you're doing. I recommend doing this with your mentor, at least for your first 1 or 2 transactions, so they can kind of see what you're doing so that you're putting your documents in place in the most efficient way. Plus, they will also know how the folder should be and how the documents should be titled based on your office and how your office staff prefer it. Okay, but I don't need to bombard Allison, so I'm going to click the red bar and remove her off. If it's just you and you're a single agent, you will just hit create app file. And that is creating your app file folder for MacPal, your individual. Nothing scary at all. Do I have any questions about the creation of an app file folder? Right, it's kind of a quiet group. I get it. The weather outside's nasty. All right, so what I'm going to go over first is some, I guess, just rule of thumbs, okay? Every app file folder has an email address. The folder has an email address, okay?
Yes.
So how you utilize it is up to you. The main thing you need to know is that you can use that email address to get documentation into your app file folder. Yes, that makes life easy, right? You have the other side, they email you a floor plan or a plat or any other documents involved in the transaction. You can forward these items into your app file folder. You don't have to upload it. You don't have to do all the work. You can forward it. These email addresses are right here in the center, right here. Now, the really neat thing is it doesn't have to be this obscure email address. You can click this edit button next to it and change what it is. So if instead I would rather it be his last name, Al, it can be. And I hit save changes. Now, a lot of agents will utilize these email addresses and they'll put it in their contacts in their phone so that they remind themselves how to get, like, what is Pal's email address for AppFiles? They have it in their phone, they can send the email. And of course, after a while of sending emails to it, it will save it in their phone, but it is something you can consider. It's a quick way to get documentation into your AppFile folder. Okay. Another thing that I want to cover is over here on the right side. These are more informational fields that can be imported into your documents and app files. So how you utilize it is up to you. I'm going to move my Zoom. Can I move it down to the bottom? Yep, there it goes. Perfect. So power users of app files, they utilize these. They come over here immediately. They go to lender information and hit the edit field, and they fill in the lender's information because their client was pre-approved by, for instance, Prosperity Mortgage, and their Prosperity person is here. They're filling in the voids early because these info fields are going to be able to be put into other documents later on. So for instance, lender company, Prosperity. Okay, address is 123 base. Office is 777. Catherine James. Oops. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm pre-filling in some information that I'm going to use on docs later on other documentation, just these shortcuts. After I do this, I can hit close, and you'll notice that my lender information is now populated on the right. So I can use these fields later on. Another great option is your master buyer template right here. If you hit the edit button, you can fill in more extensive information on your buyer that you can import into other docs. And I'll show you in a little while why this is so important, because when you bring in docs, you can move this information where you need to. So I'm going to put in something I don't already have, the buyer's phone number. Okay. And I've already got this, but I'm going to go ahead and put that there anyway, just so I can show you how this works. When you close it, of course, master buyer fills in. Oh God. Yeah, let me see if I can mute something. Got it. Okay. Sorry about that, y'all. All right. Do I have any questions about the master buyer template? So what you're doing is you're just, once again, pre-filling in information. It'll help you later on when you have your docs. Courtney, quit smiling. It's killing me. No, don't hide. Gosh, that was funny. All right, so what we're going to do is the very first thing we need to do in AppFiles is add documents to AppFiles, right? And these are the documents that are saved into AppFiles. So to do this, on the far left side where it says add forms, I'm going to hit the add forms button. Okay, when you do this, you'll notice that there's an opportunity to select forms that are saved in here. Okay, the first thing I know I'm going to need is my buyer brokerage agreement. I need my buyer brokerage in my app file folder. I'm going to start typing in buyer, and you'll see here's all the documents that tie with that name. Here's my exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, F110. Now, when I select it, it shows up on my right side. Okay. One thing that does happen on occasion, when you hit add selected forms, if you haven't been in AppFiles before, it might ask you for your NERDS number for the very first time. Just be mindful of that. In every class I've ever taught of AppFiles, I always have that one person who hasn't logged into AppFiles and used it who needed to have their NERDS number on hand. Just a rule of thumb, if you're new, make sure you have that number with you. So now that my exclusive buyer brokerage agreement is on the right side, I can add the selected form to my AppFiles. Not too bad, right? So I'm taking a document that's in AppFiles and I am adding it to my AppFile folder to utilize. When you do this, not only does this document show up full screen, but if you close it, you'll see that it's also on the left side as general paperwork. So it's one of the items that you can always click on and open. Okay. Any questions about adding a form? I'm just making sure everybody feels pretty good about what I just did. This green button on the far left side where it says add forms, I selected it. Come on. I searched for the document I needed. I selected it. It ended up over on my right side, and I added the form to the app file folder. That is all. Okay. And another example of this, for instance,
Drew,
I'm going to type in.
Drew, can I interrupt you there real quick?
Of course.
You could add, in that case, you just added the buyer brokerage, but you could add multiple forms at the same time, correct?
Absolutely.
Or is it better
I am going to type in my purchase and sale agreement. That's selecting one. And then I'm also going to add my financing option, which would be my conventional loan for this one. It could be any type of financing, but I'm going to choose this one. And when you select, like what Stuart just said, if you add two documents to the right side, they come in together. Okay. Now you can separate them later. That's not a problem. But the main thing is if you bring two documents in together, they are merged for that first moment. Yes, Stuart, thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these selected forms. And you'll now have your purchase and sale in your app file folder for MacPow. So do I have any questions on adding documents? This is adding documents that are saved in app files. Okay. Got a quick chat question? Yes, you can also add the buyer package if that's what your office has saved in there. Not all offices have the package. Right. So now what we've done is we've added documents to our app file folder. Okay. And say the first thing we want to do, of course, is we want to get our buyer brokerage signed by our contact. So I'm going to open my buyer brokerage and say that I've filled it completely out and I'm ready to send for signatures. All signatures are done the same way. Okay. It's different from the previous program called RDocs because it's not done in a cycle. In RDocs, or no, excuse me, DocuSign. In DocuSign, when you send it in a cycle and it's multiple people signing in the cycle. In AppFiles, you are sending for individual signatures to individual people. So they're separate signature requests. So the first thing you can do is you can sign yourself or sign after right here by clicking sign now. That is you as the agent signing the doc. And it takes you through the process, choosing your seller's agent signature, hitting next, typing in your name, the same kind of process as most signature requests, hitting next, accepting this is your signature, accepting, and you are added your signature to that doc. So that's you as an agent signing a doc as the agent side of the transaction. Okay. The other side is sending signature requests to your clients. Now, if I have to send to, for instance, a husband and wife situation, I will start off by hitting request signature and starting a signature request on this doc. Okay. To start off, I know I need to have Mac Powell sign for this doc. So I will start off by putting in Mac Powell. Now, if he's a junior or if he's a second, be sure to have this in this line. You want the full name of the individual signing. Next, I will select buyer's signature, which is the first signer. Okay, he will be the first to sign, and I will hit next. In this moment, I can also activate more of an engagement date, sign date, but since this is my buyer, I'm not forcing him to sign by a certain date. I just want him to sign the documentation because of our relationship we have. So I'm going to hit next. And this is what the email address or the email looks like for the signature request. Now be mindful, you can change anything about this email going out, but it must have updated. So here's my new signature. So I guess it updated. So if you're wondering if your signature updated in your settings, it probably has, because mine has. You can change whatever information in this email address except for the link right here. The link is the actual signature request. So if you wanted to change the information at the top that says, hey, Mac, I enjoyed every minute of our day today, grabbing coffee, talking about what your family is looking for, you can totally do that. But just be mindful that this link is the actual request for signature. So stay away from that. Next, you'll put in your email. I'll just use this for your contact.
Drew, I
Now I
have
get a,
I have
oops, sorry.
a
Go
question
ahead.
on that particular field. So what I did when I did this one home that I've sold, I was toggling back and forth between AppFiles and my email to capture the buyer's email addresses. And we went back and forth multiple times. So it's a lot of cut and paste, cut and paste. Is there a way to save the client's email address somehow in AppFiles so there's an easier, faster way to drop their email addresses in?
You know, Stuart, from what I remember, and I could be wrong, if somebody knows this better than I do as far as that particular question, after you use the email address once or twice, it usually saves in there and it remembers it. So I know that happens, but I can't remember if it truly saves it as an option, because I want to say it only, the dropdown is only the users. You could probably add here, add a new email address, which would stay with the app file. I would recommend trying that and see how it works.
Yeah, great suggestion.
It's a good, no, thank you for the question. I don't usually, I'm sorry?
It does stay there.
It does stay there. Thank you. Thank you. I use so many new names when I teach this class that I've never had it like truly stay because I go to the next name. So thank you for that. So after you filled in this email and it has the link in place and you're sending it to your contact, the last thing is it's going to ask you whether you want that user who's on the account to also see when this signature request goes out. So you will check to make sure that person is selected and you will request the signature. So now I have a signature request outbound for Mac Powell. Now, like I said before, this isn't like DocuSign. So you will need to start the signature request again to have Mac's wife or partner sign this document. So you will have to type in, I'm just going to use my mother's name because I can't remember what his wife's name is. Susan Powell. You will choose buyer signature 2, and you will go through the same exact process that I just went through with Mac. And they will be 2 separate signature requests. The benefits of this is you will know who signed and it's not in a cycle. So you could probably nudge Susan and say, hey, Susan, I've noticed that Mac hasn't signed. Could you give him a nudge real quick? We need this document finished. So it's not stuck in a cycle. Also, if you need to check on a status of a signature on your previous window, your home window, under the tab SIG request, you can check the status of the signature that's outbound. If you need to resend, or if you need to see send the signature link, you can, so that it's not just stuck in place. Let me open this back up. Do I have any questions about signature request? Cool. Kind of looking around just a little bit. Like I've said before, when it comes to stuff like this, create a test folder in AppFiles. Drop a buyer brokerage agreement into that test folder. Send the signature request to yourself. See how the translation comes through, how it hits your email, how the email looks like, so that you can advise your clients on what to expect. You never want to just say, I think it's going to come to you and I believe it's going to. No, you should know what the email looks like that's coming to them and what the link will do. Feel comfortable with this program so that you're not testing anything. Okay. All right. Cool. All right.
Drew, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, sometimes I've had a situation where a client only has one email address. Can you reuse that email address for each signature?
You can. In fact, I've had that situation happen. You can use the same email address, even if it's like, for instance, a couple that shares a family email address. The main thing is that the name at the top of it, the Susan Powell, they're different. Just make sure they're different. You can send it to the same email address. It's perfectly fine.
Okay, great.
Perfect. I've had that happen as well. All right. So the next thing we're going to cover is probably one of my favorite things, is your shorthand to fill in information on a document. So what we've covered since the very beginning is how, for instance, the info field, when you first created your folder, put information here, and also your lender information and your master buyer. Well, you want to utilize this information on pages you've added to your AppFile folder. An example of this is your purchase and sale here. So instead of writing every single bit of information on this doc, I want to do what's called importing values. And importing values, you have 4 different options to fill in a document. And it really is exciting when you do this, because you're going to click on this yellow button at the top, import values, and you'll have the 4 options. You'll be able to import from a form, import from an info field, FMLS, and Georgia MLS. Okay, so I want to fill this document in. My client Mac has determined that he loves this particular listing. He wants to fill in this doc. So I'm going to select import from a form. And you'll notice the buyer brokerage is available that has 11 values already pre-filled in. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking information from one document and I'm bringing it into this one just through clicks. So I'm going to choose this doc, and it shows me which info field, the values that are coming into this document for me. And I'm going to start my import to bring these into the doc. Click done. Now, if you scroll down, you'll notice one right off the bat, the buyer's broker is Perry Norman Realtors. That was one of the items that were in that first import. Now you'll do more. You'll choose import values and you will do info fields. And we filled in a good bit. We filled in the folder info fields, and we've also filled in the lender and also the master buyer template. So I'm going to hit on this and it will show me, yes, master buyer template has 2 values that it really wants, and the file information has 3. So the more you fill in, the more items that will be able to select and just fill in your document. So I'm going to hit choose, and there's the information that it has recognized to put into this document. So I'm just grabbing data. And if there's an item that does not need to be brought in, you can deselect it on the left side if it's contested. I'm gonna start my import. Hit done, and now that information is in my purchase and sale. Now, the one that I personally love is the opportunity to pull in the information from FMLS. So I'm zeroing in on a listing that my client loves, and I want to not fill in every single bit about that listing. I'm going to grab that information from FMLS and put it onto this purchase and sale. So I'm going to hit select here. And the example that I was able to get earlier, that's still in the market, thank God, still in the market. These listings are going so quickly. I'm going to grab the FMLS number for it. And I'm just going to paste it in here and hit search. And when I do this, Stone Moss Way is now available. And I'm going to pull that information onto this doc. So I'm going to hit choose. And here is all the information on this listing that I'm not going to have to write. So the listing agent is Lisa Hughes. It's a beautiful house too. I saw it earlier. It's great. It's in Trilogy Park. So if there's anything that's contested, for instance, if a lot size seems incorrect, you need to deselect it, please do. I've had that happen a few times. People said that there was information that was incorrect. So just be sure you know what's on there. I'm going to acknowledge the information and I'm going to hit start import. It's telling me this is all the values that will be pulled in my purchase and sale, and I'm going to hit done. And now you'll see my purchase and sale has been filled in with Stone Moss Way. It makes life so much easier when you have data already filled in and you don't have to write it all. And it's just a matter of a few clicks, honestly, because you've done your due diligence in the beginning when you were filling in your actual AppFiles folder. Do I have any questions about importing values? Yes, it works for MLS for those of you in certain areas where it's only MLS. It recognizes the listing and it pulls in the information.
Drew, if the listing is in FMLS, then is there no reason to also select Georgia MLS? Is it an either or should we select both?
Through our system, it's either or, but the information from Harry Norman, if it's in FMLS, it's shared to Georgia MLS because we use a program called Swift. And when we put listings in through Swift, it goes to both sides. The reason why they're separate is because there's some offices, for instance, the Savannah Seabold office, I believe Peachtree City, and maybe up north, Big Canoe, they only use Georgia MLS. So just something to think about. Also, every document has its own actions dropdown, which allows you to print, download, rename, merge forms, all these options right here, including delete. This will come up, for instance, when we merge documents, and if you want to merge document and then you want to separated document. Some people like to have two forms of it. Do I have a quick question?
Am I misremembering, or when this form comes up and you've got the listing agent's name and it already auto fills, I'm not sure it auto fills on every other form you use. Am I misremembering, or once you put it in from the FMLS import, should it be up on every single one of the documents you fill in?
Well, so right now I'm in the document, and if I import values here, it will fill in on this document wherever the value is necessary.
Okay, so is that what I'm not doing? I'm not importing values. If you went to, what's another document that has that listing agent?
Just say you opened another document in general, you would have to do import values again, go through the 3 or 4 clicks, and then it would fill those docs in.
And that's what I'm not doing. Okay, thank you.
No, not a problem. Seriously, it's the 3 clicks to fill in a doc. I mean, that's the whole, rather than typing it all the way out. Thank you for that. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is, now that we have added documents that are within AppFiles, we also need to bring in documents that are outside of AppFiles. And we covered earlier, every folder in AppFiles has an email address that you can email into, right? But it also gives you the more generic way of uploading a file as well, right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that listing we were looking at. And you can tell right here underneath the photo of the listing that this particular listing has documents tied to it. And it's usually your disclosure or your lead-based paint situation. So I'm going to click on this, which will bring up my Docs Plus or Remind Docs. And I'm going to download the items I need and have them added to my app file folder. I'm going to click on the download option. I could download both, but what it will do, it will compress it into a zip folder, and I want to make it a little bit easier on myself. So I'm going to download them separately. And then I'm just going to put them on my desktop to easily use. All right, so now I have my PDFs from this doc ready to use. So I'm going to bring back up MacPal. So what I need to do is I need to get those documents for this listing into my AppFiles folder. And I could easily just put them into an email and email it straight in. That's one way. Or I could choose the upload files option right here. And I'm going to browse and go grab them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my share so y'all can see the window again. Okay. And you will see I have my CAD. And I also need to browse and grab this doc as well. So now I have my two documents that need to be uploaded into my app file folder. I'm going to start the upload, and they are going to go in as my uploaded paperwork to this app file. I'm going to click OK. Let me switch this again. And now you'll see on the left side, I have uploaded paperwork. Now, if I had emailed it, it would have been listed as emailed paperwork as well as the category here. So also, if you need to manage your paperwork, if you click on this blue button here for manage paperwork, you can move documents into different sections. If you want to create a new section, you can. It's very simple. You can rename docs or segments as well. I have a lot of people, what they like to do is when a document is dead, like for instance, if this is a dead document, they will create a new section and they will call it trash. They'll name it trash just because they want to get stuff that's unused anymore or stuff that's not a part of the transaction out of the way. They name it the section trash. So that's just something to consider. I get questions about that a lot. Another thing I want to bring up, naming conventions. Okay, every office is different, but is it extremely important to know, because brokers have poked at me a lot about this, that the agents need to have a strong naming convention for their documents. If your office or listing coordinator or whoever deals with your app file folder says they would like it a certain way, make sure you get into a repetitive motion of doing that. If you need the address in the document, like for instance, it's 123 Bay Street, Exhibit A, make sure it's written the way your staff members want, because they are going to be checking your documents. Okay, the way to change the name of the doc, right here at the top where there's a pencil, you're going to name it whatever you're going to name it. You're going to name it, for instance, 008 Stone Moss Way, and then offer, or however your office wants. Some offices even like to have the FMLS number in the names. So just ask your staff members how they would like it written. It saves everybody a headache. Even if you're merging the documents together, it's good to name each item what they are, because your staff members are going to break the merged document apart and review what you have. So be mindful of how you name your docs. Do you have any questions about that? I have to be kind of universal because every office does it differently. That's all. Eventually, we will have a uniform naming convention. I know Todd's been working on this, but for now, check with your staff.
When you rename, you also have to check that little green
That's correct.
dot. Otherwise it goes back to whatever it auto-populated.
Exactly. If you hit this pencil mark, for instance, if I want to say it's my buyer brokerage, MacPal, you'll need to click the checkbox right here again to lock in the name to save it into place.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Drew, another question. Can you go back to the left here under manage paperwork?
Sure, of course.
So you had the two uploaded forms, the CAD and the SPD.
Yep.
Can you remind me or us how you would move those documents into, like, say, for example, your general paperwork? Like how
So
you,
yes, of course, the green bars on the left side of these items will allow you to move them to what segment you want. So this is why it's important if you're creating a new section and you're naming it trash, this is the quickest way for you to get that doc from one place to another. Now, I know people have their ways of using sections. So this makes life easier when it comes to that. So like you said, if I'm taking this document and I'm moving into my general paperwork, I drag it down and it's now in my general paperwork. Thank you, Stuart. I've had more questions about that lately than I've ever, because I think more and more people are wanting their app file folder to be clean and situated the way they want it. So I get that, of course. But also with that in mind, I'm also going to go over how to merge and split documents. So when you're merging documents, for instance, for a signature request, you would come over here to the left side where it says merge paperwork. Now you will see this option to merge in other places, because like I told you in AppFiles, things are repeated in other places. But I'm going to merge these documents here. So I'm going to hit merge paperwork. And I'm going to select the items that I want to merge together. So for instance, the offer and the two exhibits that I would like to come along with it. So I'm literally selecting the items to end up on the right side to come together. Now, like I said before, some people, what they'll do is they'll merge the documents, they'll make a copy of it, and then they'll take the other copy and split it apart. So they just like having two different ways of looking at the docs. You can also change the name of this item right here of the merge doc. After they're put over here on the right side, you can hit merge selected items. It will process the documents together. And you have a merged document of 25 pages. Just as quick as what I just did here, I can split these forms back apart by clicking this button, selecting the documents individually or all, and splitting those pages back apart for you to edit. But another thing that you can do is you can rearrange the order of these documents. So say I have them merged, but I need to move the order in a different way based on what the exhibit name is. So to do this, I'm going to hit the tab right here that says edit pages. So we're right now, our main cover right now is merging and splitting documents. Now we have a merged doc, is the merged over here, and I want to rearrange the order based on how I need them. So I'm going to hit the edit pages tab. So the best way to kind of think of this is there's segments, the purchase and sale, the conventional loan, and all the exhibits. There's segments of pages. So what I want to do, if I wanted to move the segment, the section, I'm going to hit change form order right here. And I can just drag the item where I need it to be in the order. After I have it the way I want, I can hit save changes. So that's moving the segments. Now, say I've uploaded or I scanned in a series of documents and there's a page out of order, in a section. Each section has an organized page blue button. You'll see as I scroll down, organized pages. All you have to do is select the organized pages and you can move the page in the segment and hit save. So you can move the segment and you can move the pages within the segment to the right order. Did I lose anybody? Everybody feel pretty comfortable about that? Nothing is set in stone. Nothing's set in stone. Yes.
Drew, can you delete one of those pages? Like let's say a purchase and sale agreement. Could you delete one of those pages? I mean, you wouldn't do it with a purchase and sale agreement, but could you do that?
Yeah, of course. You would select the item and you would delete pages. This red button right here. Yeah, I understand what
Okay.
you're thinking. Yes, of course. If you need to remove
No,
a certain page.
there's that COVID form that we don't always use with every contract. And
course.
I've heard a lot of agents complain about that form, and then it's kind of stuck in with the paperwork. So that's the one I'm really referring to.
No, and I understand that. as a company, we have to make sure that doc's there, but honestly, these are your contracts. So yeah, if you feel like you need to remove it,
So you
yes.
just go to those pages and hit the delete page and you're
Yep.
good.
You
Okay.
select the pages you need to and remove them.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, of course. Now, back to what we were doing earlier, I'm going to, now that I've moved my pages, if I wanted to split these documents back apart, I'm just going to hit this blue button because I want to do something with one of the pages. So I'm splitting the document back apart. I'm going to select all of the pages. And I'm just going to split these selected forms apart. And you'll see over here on the left side, my pages are back separated. Just as quick as I split them, I can merge them back. It's really a limit, like it's limitless what you can do with these documents and merging. But what I wanted to cover is elements. Okay, so right now we've covered all the basics of getting documents in, getting it filled in, knowing that you could make copies, you can split, you can merge, you can also send via email for proofing before you send for signature. You can send an email with a PDF attached. That's an option. But another one I want to cover is adding elements. For instance, adding a signature line, adding initial field, adding a checkbox, a strike through, all of these things. Every single page that you see when you have a document open in AppFiles has a blue button that says edit. And that's your ability to add something to this doc. So I'm going to hit the edit button. Forgot how zoomed in I was in this doc. So when you hit the edit button, it gives you this general item on the left side, okay? And this is your ability to add fields, elements. So the first thing you can do is you can add a text box. So say, for instance, this community association disclosure is going to be, for instance, my exhibit A, and I need to add A to this document. So I'm going to come over here to the text box. I'm going to select it. See how it's green? I'm going to bring my cursor onto my document. I'm going to click down. Now I can add the item I need. I need to add an exhibit A. I want it centered and I want the font size to be larger. I can even bold it. And I'm going to hit create. And now you'll see exhibit A is in place. I am placing an item onto this doc, the text item. Just as quick as I did that, I can select it by clicking on it once, which turns it yellow. Turning it yellow means it's selected. I can change the properties again. I can make the font larger. I can move it wherever I want, and I'm extremely OCD, so it needs to be centered. I can also delete the selected item just as quick because it's yellow. But when I'm happy with it, I can click off. Okay? So you've got a lot of control with these items. Same with adding a paragraph box, a check box. An important one is, for instance, adding an initial field. I know y'all run into this a lot. So when you're adding an initial field, you have to determine what the role of the initial field is. So I'm going to drop this down and say that I need to add a buyer initial to this doc. I will select the role. I can add a display date, display time, but most of all, I can place the initial field on the doc. So I'm going to select it, which turns it green again, and it's a buyer initial. And I can put this, for instance, if there was an edit, I can put it right next to the item and click down, which gives me the buyer initial field. Okay. If I need to move it, I click on it once, which turns it a light yellow, which gives me my properties again, and I can move this item wherever I need to move it. After I like where it is, I will click off and it is there. Recommendation, in your test app file folder, put a document in there and load it up with elements. Just get comfortable dropping document elements everywhere. That way you know how to do it and how to comfortably place it where it needs to be. Another option that I would like to do is add a signature field. I'm going to select my role, buyer signature, and come over to my document. Oops, wait. Click place signature, which turns it green, and I'm gonna come over to my doc and I will drop it down on my document. Now, clearly this is on top of text. I don't like that. I'm going to select it once and I'm going to move it where it needs to be. Like I've told y'all before, I'm very OCD, so it has to look good. It has to look really good. Now that it's where I want it to be, I will click off. And there is a lot of really fun ways of handling this. I always like the strike through personally. You select on the strike through option, which turns it green. You put your cursor where it needs to go. You click down and see here's the strike through. If it's not long enough, or if I need to move it, I select it by clicking on it and turning it yellow, coming to the edge and dragging it to where it needs to be. And now I have my strike through in place. Practice. It really is fun to work with. After you have added all of your element fields, surprisingly, you don't have to click save. You are going to close the document, and now the elements have been added permanently to this doc. Now, when I say permanent, you can hit the edit button and remove it if it hasn't been signed yet, but it is there. Do I have any questions about adding elements? A few faces, of course. I love to make sure. I can't wait to teach this in person again. Awesome. Okay, so get comfortable with using elements. It helps you a ton because you're going to have very random, especially with the way the market is right now, you're going to have moments where you're going to have to add elements. It's just part of the business. All right, let me make sure I've got all things covered. All right.
Hey, Drew.
So yes.
So
Hi.
sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to confirm when you're editing and adding elements, it's only happening within that file
That's
that
correct.
you create. Okay, so it wouldn't be throughout all that.
No, so with that in mind, you're right. I would need to, if I needed to add an element on the next page, let me bring that up real quick again. Does this have multiple pages? Yes, it does. So if I need to add elements on the next page, I would select the next page to add my elements to.
Okay,
It's purely that moment on that page of that doc. Yes.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for that. No,
Yeah.
that was a great question. Thank you. Awesome. So one thing I wanted to point out, with every app file, tasks are here, updates are here. Remember, app file not only is your file management tool, but it's also your communication with your staff. Okay, so if you do something, there is nothing wrong with putting an update in there to your staff members, letting them know you have completed something. They want you to do that. They want you to feel comfortable using this and checkpointing yourself. So an example of this, for instance, say my buyer brokerage has come back and it is signed. Okay, so I'm going to come over to my buyer brokerage. And every office, once again, is a little different, but I'm going to teach it the way that 2 or 3 offices have told me they prefer it being done. So I'm going to choose the section. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it in through broker docs. That is my way of submitting it to my staff members. Okay. There's about 3 offices, I believe West Cobb, East Cobb, and there's a few others that use this. So broker docs, I'm submitting my buyer brokerage. Okay. Also, by doing this, I can also come down here to my create an update and inform my, for instance, say I'm at Denise's office at West Cobb. I can inform Denise, she'll show up over here as an admin, that it's great news. I've got my buyer brokerage signed by Mac Powell. We had a great day out. We looked at some great houses in Kennesaw. Okay, it's that connection that I have with my staff members, just to let them know it's there. So utilize what this system truly does. You're creating literally a digital manila folder for your contact and all the different items they need to to complete a transaction. Okay. Some offices also use this for marketing requests. So if your marketing coordinator has a request through this, find out how they would like for you to actually submit those items. There's just a few that I know, but check with them about this. Finally, let's see, I think I've covered all the different items. Totally utilize your info fields, your file information fields. It'll help you long-term. I've logged into a few power users at AppFiles and their master buyer template is completely filled because they've gotten to know their contact and they don't want to have to fill that in on every single document. They know them. Lastly, after you've renamed all of your docs and they're perfectly the way your staff wants it, you are going to turn in your final contract. Okay, and to do this, at the very top of the folder where it says edit, You're going to, for instance, rename it, for instance, the address. Let's say we'll do the, I'm just going to put 123 Bay Street again. That's my go-to. However they would like for you to name it, whether it's offer, FMLS number, whatever. And instead of it being a buyer now, this is you turning in your document. So you will change the status from buyer to new pending. And new pending will alert your staff members that you are turning in your app file for this transaction. You will click new pending, you will scroll down, and you will save changes now that every document's in there signed and you are ready to go. This will also alert your staff that there's nothing wrong with hitting an update and saying, hey, just so you know, offer on 123 Bay Street is in. So glad, check my work, let me know if I've missed anything, but I feel great about what happened. Okay, it's your translation between you and your staff members. And that's basically the once over of AppFiles. It's a great program, feel comfortable with it. Your staff members have utilized this over the moon. So don't feel like you're hung up. You can call me, you can call your staff. We're here for you and we'll make sure you don't mess up. Once you do it once, you'll have it. I won't lie, it's really great. So I'm here, I want to hear some questions. Any scenarios or situations you've had? I'd love to help. Got a quick chat?
Oh, go ahead with
It
the
is
chat.
a great program, absolutely. Yes, Stuart.
Yeah, on the new pending, I was taking feverish notes and I think I missed that. I believe that the one transaction I've done, our coordinator actually changed it to new pending. Were you showing that we actually changed the file to new pending?
More like you have the ability to change the file.
Could you?
Because what they'll do is you're turning it into them. And if there is changes, I believe they'll change the status back for you to make the changes.
And could you just?
So you have the ability.
How to do that? Is that you just?
Sure. I went up to edit at the very top and I
Okay.
changed the file type here.
Okay.
Because what it's doing is it's going to give them alert that you've completed your folder.
Okay.
Come on, I want to hear some questions. Come on. My drip campaign class, we could have gone 4 hours. Come on, y'all.
No, Drew, I wanted to take this course because honestly, I had not written an offer because I haven't had a buyer in
Sure.
like 5 months. And I got into it and I thought, how do I write a purchase and sale agreement? I mean, I went in and thought, oh my God, I've forgotten how to do this. So you have taught me some things I did not know about this that I can do on the front end. So thank you for that. I learned 3 new things in the first 20 minutes, all worth this time.
And that's the thing, these classes, if you gain that, or if you just have a question answered, that's why I do this. I want to make sure you feel comfortable with what our programs are. And honestly, that's why I'm excited that I'm doing this, what they call Drew's World Tour, that I'm visiting all the offices for 5 days. While I'm at your office, grab me. You have a question about AppFiles, CRM, our website development, come grab me, say, hey, Drew, I'm hung up on this. The one thing I want is that you tried it. If you break it, mess it up, I don't care. You tried it. I can help you fix it. I can get you there. I got to start with something.
When are you at Buckhead?
Let me bring up that calendar. Sorry, that's a good idea. I believe I have you in the first 5 weeks. I know that. Some of these offices have seasoned vets. Part of the reason why I'm at the Buckhead office is because you have a lot of brand new agents that are kind of coming into this raw. So I want to make sure they feel comfortable starting something. Let's see what we got. Here it is, Drew's World Tour. Buckhead, I'm at March 28th through April 1st. Can everybody see my email?
No.
Can you see it?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me switch my share real quick. Y'all can see all my emails with Luke. So Atlanta North's first, Ninja, Perimeter right here. The 28th through March 4th. In town is 7 to 11. Blairsville, Blue Ridge, I've got March 14th through 18th. I'm gonna do a little fly fishing while I'm there. Forsyth, I'm gonna be at 21 through 25th. I'm gonna meet your new marketing coordinator, Justin. He sounds amazing. I'm really excited about that. Buckhead, March 28th through April 1st. Spring break schools, April 4th through 8th. So usually agents don't come in much. We have Agent Accelerate, and then it's North Fulton and Buckhead Northwest, which Northwest is my old office. So it'll be great to see everyone again. East Cobb, West Cobb, and Woodstock are not on that list, only because I'm there so frequently. I live in West Cobb. So I will be poking my head in, of course. I'm going to arrange something for the week of Blue Ridge and Blairsville to be at East Cobb for at least 2 or 3 days. So Marcia's an old friend of mine. I'm going to help where I can there too. So just poke your head in. What the brokers are going to do is they're going to have me in an office and just come by, say, hey, Drew, I'm hung up on this. That's what I'm here for. I want to make sure y'all get these things. So no dumb questions. There's no such thing. Can you come to Arrow at some point? You know what? I didn't book Arrow, and I think it's what they were trying to do is have Arrow come over to in-town. Write down my in-town dates and slip by and say hi, okay? I will work with Leslie to get a visit because I haven't been to that office yet. Thank you. This world tour has more to do with these new marketing coordinators that are coming in because we have 4 new ones. So I want to make sure everybody feels comfortable because I want them to be the first line of defense so that if y'all get hung up, they're there. So that's what this is all about.
Hey, Drew, I did have a question with the email setting up options. I know you
Sure.
said to select spoof.
Yes.
Okay, and I was just reading underneath the cons, it was saying that it's almost 100% chance of landing into your spam junk box.
It's not true. It's
Okay.
not true. As long as I've done this, I've maybe heard it once or twice. And part of the reason why the person was a government employee.
Okay.
Like they were, that's what it was. And I'm like, oh my God, and they never told me that. They let me go as long as they could before they're like, Drew, he's kind of a big deal. And I'm like, oh.
Well, then, yeah.
Yeah, and so our system is all about your communication. If anything, most of the time they passed over it because they thought it was junk mail or something. Check with them, make sure it comes to your email so you can tell them what time it hit. It helps them big time. When in doubt, you can also send the link to what the scenario is, whether it's a signature request, there's an actual link tied to it that you can send the link to the signature request.
Oh, very cool.
So, make it easy. Of course, your job is more of a service industry anymore. So it's just, what can I do to help you? This is how I can get you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you for asking. I always get that question. I'm like, don't worry. I swear I wouldn't be telling you this if it wasn't okay. Promise. Well, I'm trying to think. What's that?
Thank you.
Of course. Let's see. Next week we have Ninja. For those of you who want to know, we have Ninja coming up. At the end of this month, I am teaching an intermediate to advanced website class. I love teaching that. My background is web development. Went to school for it, very comfortable with it. I try to make it simple, try my best. So come join, ask questions, have fun with it. Next month, I will be pushing out, a YouTube basics class. I'm teaching YouTube basics. I'm a huge advocate, obviously, of YouTube. Love YouTube. And I'll also be teaching Mia from start to finish, how to utilize Mia. And I believe I will be doing my first in-person training at Buckhead. So that'll be fun. I'm still figuring out what the topic is. I'm going to find out what's going on at Buckhead and what they're struggling with first, and then I'll teach that class. So I'll be starting to do more in person again. As much as I love Zoom and being able to record these classes for YouTube, I miss being able to look over your shoulder and seeing if you're really truly with me. So I'm going to hang out for a little bit. If you have any questions about AppFiles or just about anything, that's what I'm here for. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay out of the rain. I know it's really nasty out here. So just stay safe. And thank you for joining me today. Bye.
It's
Thanks
great.
so much.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Great class.
Always, y'all. Perfect. Thank you. See you at Ninja. Great. Oh my God, I'm excited.
Hey, Drew.
Bye.
Drew,
Yes, Yolanda, what's up?
what's poppin'? How are you?
I am living the dream. I'm traveling a lot. I'm telling you.
I know. Yay. Listen, I
Yes.
don't know if this is a valid question, and I am going to go back through the other trainings, but this is my thing. I'm with you as much as I possibly could. Is there somewhere something that will show me what the perfect app file folder should look like.
Oh.
Because right now, I mean, honey, all my stuff is in general paperwork. I'm just glad to maneuver it in. So I want to get better and make this right. So
You know,
are you
the
feeling my
answer to
question?
that's a tricky question, Yolanda. The perfect app file folder is whatever your staff member loves.
Okay,
A real talk. I mean, totally real talk. If your
Okay.
staff member love it, you're doing a killer job because they're the one who's checking your work, making sure your broker approves of it and moving forward. So what I would recommend, sit with your staff member, make sure the way they name stuff is the way they want it named. If they want it all in general paperwork, if they want it in a certain area, find out what they want
okay,
because it's different at every office. Okay.
okay, gotcha.
The
That's
way,
the answer.
Drew,
Yes. Hi.
the way that I also do it is I think about down the road, if I ever have to refer back to my app file, I want to
Yeah.
be able to not have to click on everyone trying to figure out which one is what. So if you title it so that it's
Yeah.
easy for yourself to reference to, because it could be a year from now, you can
True.
at least click on it. Because I just sold a property last year in June, and now they're already moving again. So I need to pull some information for that, but I'm not going to remember everything from, 7, 8 months ago. But I now can pull up the old app file and then be able to just pull up every file individually. So it doesn't
I
just
love
help
that.
the staff, but it helps you.
No, you're very right. I mean, I know one agent who
Thank
sold
you.
the same house 6 times. So I
Right.
get it. Absolutely. That's,
Okay,
that's
good.
great advice. Thank you for that.
The
That's a
other
great
thing
idea.
is, for anybody that hasn't used this or hasn't used it much, once it's been signed, you cannot delete it. If it hasn't
correct.
been signed, then yes, you can delete it or put it, like you said, in trash.
That's why I brought up that section situation. Yes, if it's a signed document and it's a dead doc, it has no purpose, having a section called trash, it's better for the mind. It really is.